How you been, Isaac?
Good.
How you been, Mark?
Good.
Good. She went back to India already, or is she still here?
And here, Monday also.
Okay. So next week you'll be back there?
Monday, this Monday.
Next Monday?
This Monday.
This Monday. Okay. Yeah, mở máy. Wow.
As they say, yes. Come back to India. Yes. You come back to India, right? Yeah. So that's India. Nobody, nobody. Beyond. Kerala. Kerala.
So are you excited to visit and see your families?
Excited to see family. Yeah, yes. I'm more excited about food.
Okay, good. Been for a year that you out of the country?
Yeah, it is.
Good then. Okay. Mm. So Isaac, how you been, Isaac? Yeah. So you enjoyed to tutor the children?
Mm.
Good. So you come every day, right? From Monday to Thursday, right? How is that? It's easy?
Uh,
Really? Mm-hmm.
I'm learning, but yeah, it's good.
Yeah, you teach the little one, huh? They are, yeah, they can assist you, right?
Right. The baby math. Still baby math.
Mm. Yeah. So Miss uh what's her name? Kristen, she's there.
Yeah, she's yeah, she's for the hall.
Oh, okay. So Matt, how you been?
Good.
You working on your thesis, right? You don't take final, right?
Yep, that's right. Yeah. Is it in Yugo? Mm-hmm. Oh, what's it teach? Chemical engineering. Oh, this was last week. 28 last week. Which one? Last week, right? Last week at school. April 28th. Yeah, next week there's final exams. Yeah. Yeah, I already done everything. Good. Hard. Oh, it's gonna be done already.
Yeah.
Pastor, if you're not here Sunday, do we still have a treat?
This
Yeah, we have it. No, yes.
yes, we have that.
We have from 8 to 4. Oh.
Or you can come and join with them then. Yeah. Mm.
We try to do the great comparison, great comparison mantra value. Should I be? Yep, I will do that value. So they have you need to look at more. Just find out and then yeah. What to do. Like samosa. It's Indian, right? Yeah. I love those. Okay. Oh, that's from in the trailer in the army in New Jersey.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot to send them email. Mm. Yeah, just wait for me, please. Let me
Oh, no.
Miss Kristen, how you been?
I'm very well, thank you.
Email to them.
Is he?
And Stephen, can you?
Yes, I can hear you. How are you?
I'm in the new. I'm in my trailer.
Movable, home-like.
Yeah. Yeah, so how you been, and Stephen?
Just pretty busy with work, the same, day after day. But other than that,
Uh,
and Sabrina's slowly wrapping up her senior year here, so she got only a few more weeks left. So
the summer classes.
the what?
Will she take any summer classes?
No,
No. Oh, so she up for a summer before she go to college, huh?
that's correct. And then there's a few things they need to do, like orientation and go here, go there. That's campus related in preparation to getting into campus. So.
Hi, Tammy. How you, Tammy?
Good.
Yeah, nice to see you again. How are your children?
They're good. They're excited about school almost being over.
Okay, when is that?
The end of May, the day after Memorial Day.
Okay, yeah. So you know our summer camp, right? Did you
Yeah.
did you bring them last year to summer camp?
No, it's been a few years since they came.
Okay. So that's the last week of June, from 22nd, I think from June 22nd to 29. Mm. How have you been, Miss Kristen?
I'm well. Very good. Last week I went, you remember how the Jewish community comes to our
Can
function?
can you ask Giáo Đạo to move his computer so that I can hear it easy because it's yeah.
You know how last week, last no, okay. So, you know how the Jewish community comes to our functions? You remember those guys?
Mhm.
They invited me to come to their holy Passover Shabbat dinner.
Okay.
And so I had celebrated with them their Shabbat dinner. And then I led a short loving kindness meditation after dinner.
Wow, that's wonderful. Yeah. Okay. All right. So uh yeah, up to now I still could not remember your name, Matt. What's her name? Can you type?
At
Now can you type your name on the computer, please, on the chat, so I can remember before she go back to India. Can you type your name on the computer? Uh, yeah. Ash. Okay, good. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Okay, so let's us move on to our discussion today. Mm. So, tell me, you're working at that place. Tell me, tell me, your job is okay. Tell me.
Oh yeah, it's really good there. I just found out I went up the steps yesterday, or I was going to leave work yesterday.
Mm.
And at the top of the steps, I don't know how I didn't notice it before, but there's a big banner from the Tibetan temple where I guess where they maybe have did a sand medallia before. They had gave him like a one of their cloth with thanks on it. Thanks to Rainbow for, being a partner with It
Oh,
was really cool. It was old, like you could tell it's been there for a while, but it sits at the top of the steps there.
okay. So they pray for community or what?
I don't know. It was so long ago. I found some sand there the other, like a couple months ago. I walked up the steps to the other office and there was sand there from where they had did they must have did a dissolution, but I think it must have been like 10 years ago or something, a long time ago.
All right. Okay. So Isaac, can you see? Let me see here. Is it too big for my screen? Yeah. Yeah, Isaac, can you stop, please? Yeah. Can you move the computer so that we can hear your voice clearly? Yeah, please.
The detailed and complex code of monastic discipline outlined in the Vinaya may strike many contemporary Westerners as legalistic and unnecessarily concerned with matters of external behavior. But such a perspective fails to recognize the extent to which Theravada Buddhist tradition has linked mental cultivation and the realization of the Dharma with the total pattern of life defined by the code of monastic discipline.
You can stop there. Yeah. Okay.
I remember we had read this part before. So it's basically, Matt summed it up last time. Basically, it's saying how the Theravadan tradition really emphasizes the, um, you know, the rules and the discipline
Mhm.
um, to a T with, you know, reaching Buddhahood or liberation. So Westerners might see that as unnecessary and not understand why they do that, but it's because they conflate the two. They go hand in hand.
Okay.
So
Yeah. Let me give you one example. Those rules train us to be mindful with of our action, whether it's our verbal action or our body action. For example, while we're walking, we're supposed to walk slowly and softly. We cannot walk like elephants. So that's why when the children they walk like elephants, I told them, "Oh, hey, you walk like elephants." That is the one of the conduct. That's one of the training. And when we eat too, we need to eat in silent and we need to eat in mindful. When we're driving and so forth. That's what some of the rules about. Ben, how you been, Ben?
Doing good.
Good. How you driving?
Good, yes. Uh-huh.
Good. Okay. All right. So yeah, and Stephen, can you finish this one, please?
The Vinaya has served Theravada Buddhist communities for more than 2.5 millennia as the foundation for practicing the Buddhist path to nirvana and for ensuring the continued survival of the Buddhist Dharma.
Hmm.
I mean, that's somewhat straightforward, I guess. It's just pretty much explaining that it has been set up to basically teach us and guide us towards Buddhist teaching, towards the path of nirvana, and it's been gone for quite a while. So, to make sure that his teachings and everything continue on and will not stop. Mofate.
So what do you think is this type of the rules and monastic discipline has been practiced by us for more than 2,500 years. What do you think? It's not easy to follow with this kind of tradition, or whenever tradition has been set up, it's easy to follow through. What do you think? It's easy or not easy to follow through throughout the time, especially in modern age. What do you think?
Um, if you're asking me, then I'm going to say no. For normal lay people, it is not easy because if it was, why are we having such a problem in the world right now? So no, it is not easy.
Yeah, yeah, Miss Kristen, remember we talked about this many times, right? For the Theravada monks, if they walk on the street and beg for food, right, it's outdated, right? No one can recognize them, right?
Here, not, not in Louisville, some other cities, it's a little bit more
Mm-hmm.
comfortable, but here in this area, it's not in our culture. Yeah, it's just not very recognized. So they'd probably go pretty hungry.
Yeah. In Houston, it's just walkable. Yeah, some of them they stand in front of the supermarket. They walk. Most of the time, they stand somewhere in the public place, especially in front of the supermarket, so people can recognize them. But if actually, I have not seen even any Vietnamese Buddhist monk walk around the city even in Houston, where we have large Vietnamese Buddhist communities there. Most of the time they go there. They go to the parking lot of the big supermarket or shopping center, so people can recognize them and
A
get.
lot of
Yes.
in this area, I'm sure in other parts of the country, they go to Asian restaurants to, because, it's important and it's easy access to food. Is he talking?
Oh, we can't.
We can't hear
You're on
you.
mute.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay. So, Mary Kristen, besides that kind of practice, the practice I'm around that go out to beg for food, any practice in the Theravada tradition that may not be applicable in modern age, especially in our era, in Louisville era? What do you think?
I mean, I suppose it's on the level of dedication for the monk. A lot of those rules, particularly in Theravada tradition, are to remove your attachments from your body, remove attachments from your lifestyle, remove your. So I think a lot of those rules are very systematically designed for even someone that maybe goes into the monastery that isn't that high up. You have these rules, and very quickly, when you're only able to sleep on a pad that's this thick, and that systematically it's removing your attachments and your dependency on your body, on the other types of input you take into your mind, and then of course the relationships your wholesome relationships, you're allowed to have those, but it also keeps those monks and nuns very protected from unwholesome relationships and situations.
Okay, so how about the Sri Lanka monks over there? Do they keep the morning? Do they drive the car around?
Oh, so it's interesting, like they do have money, so they can go shopping, but if they have if we were to go out to eat or something and they were to use some of their money for the food, they would have to ask someone else to hand over the money. Like they're not allowed to directly hand over the money, so they would, let's say it was on a debit card or something like that, they would ask someone else to hand that over. Same thing with just even though they're kind of forced to interact with money, if there's any opportunity to not directly interact with it, they don't. That's
Okay.
how they circumvent that. But I know in more traditional settings, they're not supposed to be interacting with money at all.
So let's say in Northern America, so if they live somewhere else, like in Northern state, like Michigan, I mean that any state, any city that have not, or not have many Buddhists around. So with that kind of dependency on the lay people, how could they live? How could they practice? How could they survive in that kind of environment?
It is extremely challenging.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's challenging, and the types of fundraise the types of, and it just, that's a product of Western living, which
Mm-hmm.
it was not designed for Western living or capitalism. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I think those monks are very aware that they have to make some concessions to what they're supposed to do just because of survival. And so I think depending on the level of the monk,
Mm-hmm.
some monks absolutely just, they're like, fine, I'll behave like I'm Western in this situation. And then other monks might have a little more wisdom, and they're able to practice given their constraints.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that kind of has to do with the cleverness and the dedication of that monk.
Mm. Okay, thank you. How about Tammy? You go to the Tibetan center several times. So what is your observation about them? They get more engaged in community services, community activities. Tammy.
Yeah, they do, because they'll go out. Yeah. Yeah, they definitely go out in the community a lot.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think? In opposite way with the Theravada tradition, right? In Theravada tradition,
Oh,
we're supposed to
okay.
stay back.
So then I would say, yeah, it is important to get out in the community for sure, because people just don't know about Buddhism. So the
Mm-hmm.
more monks and nuns you can have, like front facing or going to community events, I think the better, just to get kind of people just awareness out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Actually, before they came to Louisville, many of them they invite me to go out, but since I was busy to go here and there, like Houston, New Jersey, and so forth. So now they most of the time they invite the band group then, but that's great. That's great that they have that type of interaction with others. For
And
me, I focus on education of the youth, of the college student.
yeah, and you can really tell the difference between the two and what your mission is compared to what their mission is. It's very distinct.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you can tell.
Okay. So, Ben, uh, probably you, if you live in E Town, right? Probably you would not see any Buddhist monk, right?
No,
Go away.
no, no. It's mainly conservative Christian, and then we have a Islamic mosque,
Mm-hmm.
but no Buddhist
Yeah.
influence.
Yeah. Are they aware of our center here in Louisville? Some of them.
It's kind of like a myth, like I sometimes I mention it to people, like I go to the Buddhist temple in Louisville. They're like, okay, that's cool,
Mm-hmm.
like it doesn't register.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. And Stephen, the Angkor Temple, most of the time the nuns speak Vietnamese only, right? They don't have much service in English, right?
No, it's mainly in Vietnamese, but I believe there is one practitioner who helps. There's at least someone who's helping translation. So
Mm-hmm.
there's always some kind of headphones for non-Vietnamese to basically listen. So
Yeah, it's not easy when you don't have that type of direct interaction. Anyway, so let's go back then. We'll go back to our discussion today. Let's see here. Okay. Yes, Miss Kristen, can you read, please?
The Sutta Pitaka, Basket of Discourses, is the most famous section of the Theravadan canon. By far the largest of the three collections of texts that comprise the Tipitaka, it consists of more than 30 volumes of suttas, in Sanskrit sutras, or discourses attributed to the Buddha and his earlier followers, and is traditionally grouped together under 5 sections: the Dinga Nikaya, the Mahimna Nikaya, the Samyutta Nikaya, and the Anguttara Nikaya. And the Khuddaka Nikaya, a miscellaneous collection of texts not clearly fitting into any other collections.
Okay. Hmm.
So those are the Pali names. So there's long discourses, medium discourses, connected discourses, and discourses arranging in numbers, and then like the random group of small texts. They're all pretty they're all pretty repetitive. You have some longer explanations of stuff, but they tend to cover the same things, just in slightly different variations for the most part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The discourses, yeah.
Yeah. Hmm. Okay, so we discussed in general about them before. Let's move on then. Let's see him. Ben, you like to read this one, Ben?
Sure. The Jataka stories about the previous lives of the Buddha circulated widely in the Buddhist world and appeared in a number of early texts. The most well-known is the Jataka birth stories, a collection of more than 5,000 stories that form part of the Sutta Pitaka. The date of this capitulation is uncertain, but already in the 2nd century BCE, recognizable Jatakas were being shown in relief sculptures in North India.
Okay, you can stop there. You can stop there. Yeah.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
this is talking about the Jataka, the birth stories. So it's like the early stories of the Buddhist, of the Buddha's life is what I'm getting.
Okay, so the early one,
Previous lives.
yeah,
Sorry.
the 2nd century BC. So have you had time to read those stories yet, Ben?
No, I'm not familiar with this one. I have
Not
to
familiar
go
with
do
that.
some research.
And Stephen, are you familiar with the Chaka Tale story?
No, I have not.
About Tammy, you recognize them, Tammy?
Aren't those the kid stories?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't realize they were all about Buddha's different reincarnations. I didn't know that part, but yeah, we have books of them that we got from your temple for the kids.
Yeah. 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 All of them are moral story, but yeah, it focus on the past life of the Buddha. But now in India, they use those story as an ethical story for people in India in general. Yeah, there's more than 500 stories. So Miss Kristen, do you know why the Buddha used to tell the past life, his past life, why he was teaching? You know why?
Probably because in a lot of those tales, it shows this very selfless nature. So in the Theravadan tradition, the Bodhisattva is the Buddha before he awakened. So those stories show lifetime after lifetime, because it takes so long to cultivate to that level.
Yeah.
many lifetimes. And even like it, so you'll see these like very selfless acts, how he still gets reincarnated. Also, I think kind of just to not to prove the struggle, but to understand like what a rare and great feat that is. That your karma really has to ripen time after time after time before you can really collapse or whatever call that well, because it's putting the light out is what it is. It's to
Yeah. How about you, Matt? What do you think? Let's say in your profession, right? If you could remember all the formulas, all the techniques, how to mix the chemical and so forth, that you have done in the past, is this more beneficial, or you just focus on your work nowadays? I mean that my point is I want to say that past experience is more valuable or not much. What do you think?
Very valuable. I mean, I wish I could remember, all the experiences that I've had, but I've forgotten a lot of them. But the big ones, you know that teach often, painful big lessons are the ones that stick with me, and those are the ones that I often pass on and teach to others, typically
Mhm.
involve safety.
Yeah. So how about you? What do you think about the Buddha? While he was teaching, he used to inject some of his past life into those kind of teaching. What do you think? Is that valuable, and also is that understandable? What do you think?
I think it would be valuable if the context is still relevant to the time in which he's still teaching, right?
Mhm.
If his past life lived a lesson that was, or if the experience was in a past life to which the lesson was, it's a high level lesson, but if it's not super practical in the current time, the lesson may not be adopted as easily by students if it's not as practical.
Yeah. How about me? Okay. How about Miss? Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
There's benefit to still trying to pass along the wisdom, but from the student's perspective, if it's not super readily practical in the time, then they're less likely to pick it up.
Think. So, what do you think? Is that believable for those kind of past life story, or what do you think?
Are they believable?
Why? Why is this believable? What do you think?
Yes, I do, but yeah, because I believe in that in the Buddha's teaching, the Dharma. So some
Mm-hmm.
people, but I do. So
Yeah. So when you meditate well, right? When your mind come in upright, you could remember something in the past, right? Yeah. How about Miss Ash? What do you think? Is that believable for those type of past life story of the Buddha? What do you think?
Like I think what he's showing, like our soul is eternal, so it can take a different form and it can experience all of it. And
Mm-hmm.
that message he's trying to give to the disciples and everyone. Other than thinking like it's only one life, many life, and we have many opportunity to show the core values. Each and every life we can make it more profound. That is what I.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. Thank you. How about Tammy, what do you think? Let's say suppose there's some monk that explain about your past life. Is make you surprised or you scared?
Neither.
Neither.
I'd be thankful.
Oh, really?
But I'd
Okay.
say, no, you don't know. How can you know
Mm.
before I know, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
Mm. Okay. Is you encounter that kind of situation yet? Not yet, right?
well, I feel like I not like that I've remembered a past life or had anybody tell me anything, but I feel like I kind of understand it more because I just the saying of if you want to know where you've been or where you're going, look at where you're at now. So I
Okay.
think I'm able to make more connections of where I've probably come before, and gonna head towards. But no, I've never like had some kind of memory or something.
Mm. About Ben, what do you think? If someone told you about your past life, you believe that or you run away?
I think it would be cool to 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 know the details and if somebody especially like the Buddha or like a well-trained monk, I think that would be very interesting
Mm.
to see where I've come from. So
Yeah. Okay.
I've,
How
I've,
about
I've, probably, I've probably been a nerdy little guy with glasses for a long time. So that's all I could think of.
How about Stephen? If you encounter those type of teacher, the one that told you about your past life, it be scary for you, or you like to learn more about your past life?
Currently now, from what I've learned so far about Buddhism, no, I would not be afraid or scared or anything like that. And once you understand the true what karma really means, how that works, then it's actually kind of helpful, just depending on who you are and what you want to do. If you want to improve and get your karma better, then no matter what situation you're currently in, you're always going to try to do your best to do better, to improve on your karma, so you can continue on to get away from the typical cycle of birth, death over again. You want to go beyond that. So in other words, the next level existence to go, like if I'm guessing for non-Buddhists like Christian, you always think about heaven. That's where I truly want to do is, hopefully get there, one way or another. Mofate.
Yeah, thank you. So Isaac, you say that's somehow Isaac. Remember you told that somehow you didn't dare to step on the insect of kill a bug when were you little, right? But you didn't know why, right?
No, not when I was little. No, a few years ago I
Oh, two
started.
years ago. Okay.
Thought I
Mm,
was someone else.
okay. Mm. And you think somehow you build up since your past life?
Say that again. Sorry.
Did you build up your last life?
Build up with the bugs.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Ben, what you want to ask, Ben?
So like in past lives, have we always had like the same bad habits? Like if somebody smoked in this life, did they have a addiction problem in the past life, or how does that karma work?
Okay. How about Tammy? Can you respond to this question? It's very interesting question. Tammy, can you respond to this? If you
Yeah, so I believe so for sure. And that's why I think it's so important because it goes back to saying whatever you're doing now is what you've done in the past and what you'll do in the future. So it's so important right now in this life to recognize what you're doing, the habits that aren't healthy for you, and try to change them so you don't carry them with you again. But it's hard. It's very difficult, especially the older you get. So it's important to with the kids to try to train them to have the best habits so they're not. But yeah, I definitely believe that to be true.
okay, yeah. How about Matt? What do you think?
I'd agree with that, especially the breaking the habits part. That is
And I mean that you think you carry on those habits in the past, right, to now? What do you think?
if we don't fix them in a past life, then yeah, I don't see why those negative habits would leave if we have lessons to gain from breaking those negative cycles.
Mm-hmm.
Leave if the whole purpose is to grow and evolve our souls, then why would the challenge just leave without us completing it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How about Miss Ash? What do you think? Will you carry on those habits in the past up to now? What do you think?
It's the impressions in our mind, and it's all it is reflecting back.
Mm-hmm.
To
Yeah.
erase these impressions. If it is good, it will persist, and bad, we need to move it from us and make more purified. Purification is the one happening.
Okay, good. But Stephen, you think you recognize some of your habits that you may have carried on since the past life? What do you think? That's so unique that
Yeah.
other people would not have, like you.
I
Yes.
think out of all these habits that we're discussing here, I think what we're trying to do is basically learn how to not be attached. One sake of you mentioned how, like, for example, smoking in the past. Well, you know how it when you're smoking, those chemicals make you false happiness. It makes you feels good, so you attach to it and you keep on doing more and more and more. But at the same time, if you realize that if you're getting all that toxic inside your body, you're breaking it down, so you actually may die quicker. If you understand that concept and you have to it's kind of very tough to overcome that attachment and just let it go. If you realize that and you're willing to do that, just like Ash was saying there, you have to just let go of all the negativity and be willing to just get rid of it and
Mm.
just get more of the good stuff. That's the only way to overcome, all these attachment, all these bad habits, so to say. But all the bad habits, we really think about it. I feel that it's just the attachment to it. We're not willing to let it go. So it's very hard to let go. So,
About the good habit, for example, let's say it not happened to me, but someone I know in person that since they were born up to now, even they 60 for more than 60 years, they never consume any kind of meat because whenever they even smell the meat, they could not swallow. They may feel vomiting. So I mean that with that type of habit, it's good habit, right? We need to build up with good habit, right?
yes, I feel that you need to fill with a good habit. And then
Mm.
that way, try to remember it in your subconscious and carry that over all the
Mm-hmm.
good habits and all the good attainment, so to say. So.
Yeah. But thank you, Mr. Kristen. What do you think? I mean that if we build up already the good habit and the bad habit, so in the past life, so how could we? One way is that we want to transform the negative one, and we want to enhance the positive one. If we recognize them, how can we do that then?
Well, I think
Yeah. So.
in very I think in very deep states of meditation, you definitely do connect to a lot of that. And of course, the more you increase your awareness of what's happening, and of course, even more so than like smoking or like the really obvious habits, but we have some like really deeply ingrained subconscious patterns we see in our life over and over that are very related to fear and survival. So, and that's one of the theories of why we don't have access to our past lives, because we would be so traumatized and so overwhelmed by that. So we just extract the most important survival lessons. And so when you go in this life and start examining your relationships with general reality people, and you try to, you can have the knowledge in this lifetime, how do I break that? But you've also cultivated this awareness how deep that groove is. So of course I think deep meditation, or it has for me, has brought me to some very, and I know I'm not supposed to claim realizations, but for me, I've had some very intense and profound realizations about my general relationship with believing I am the separate self.
Okay, thank you. Boys, Ben, you got that? You got those couple of response?
Yeah, it makes
Okay.
sense.
Mm-hmm. Do you believe in horoscope?
In the horoscope, I used to follow it, and I had some Asian friends in New York. They were big into it, but I'd say no.
No. Okay,
Yeah.
tell me, what do you think? You believe in horoscope? Tell me.
Yes, I do. I
You
think
do?
it's a good base anyways. I think it's a good base to like well the characteristics and stuff it will tell you about people born at such different times. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's a good base, but I can definitely tell like with the shifts in the moon cycle
Mm-hmm.
and the star alignments, like there's definitely different times where I have more energy and less energy, and it is directly related. So I definitely believe that. Yeah, I believe in all that.
About Matt, what do you think?
It's fun to kind of look at. I'm not sure if I'm a believer.
Not sure.
It
About
is interesting to kind of to look at though.
about Miss Ash, what do you think? You believe in horoscope, especially Indian tradition, right?
Yeah, in our tradition, it is already there. Even marriage and everything is based on horoscope only.
Mm-hmm.
Jataka is already written when we born itself. Our grandparents will start to go to some people and they will write our Jataka. So they know like what age is going to happen, all those things. But I think it is just a predictions and then take precautions like if something bad is going to happen or like just take some precautions. That's it. I'm not a complete
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. About Isaac, what do you think? Have you tried before the horoscope before, Isaac?
Yeah, yes, I have.
How
I
was
think,
that? Is that what's the percentage of accuracy?
uh, I think maybe for someone who really believes that, the percentage would be much higher, be much more accurate. But
Mm-hmm.
I think if you are you working on your karma, especially
Mm-hmm.
from the Buddhism,
Yeah.
I would take a grain of salt because you can transcend that. You can uh, influence your own destiny by your deeds.
Mm-hmm. Okay. About and Steven, do you believe in that? What do you think?
I never realized the horoscope there. I hear brief details of what exactly it is, but I myself haven't completely believe in it myself because I always think that how if your horoscope is saying that something is always going to happen to you bad, but then again, how you're going to overcome the badness without cultivating yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and being aware of what we're all discussing here. You have to be aware of it, and you have to know what is bad and good, and then to overcome that, just don't do that habitual pattern. And it's keep that horoscope to me, I think it's keeping us in the same cycle, the same loop. You want to overcome that. So
Mm-hmm.
I could be
Yeah.
wrong.
Mm-hmm. Ben, have you tried before, Ben?
Yeah, I was really big into it. And like my friend Michael that lives in New York, I told him I've tried to invite him to the Zoom meetings, and he's like, "That's so cool! It's on a Friday night, and that's the solstice." And he's like so into it, and we would read these horoscope books together, and like I heard like in some Asian cultures, like they wait for the baby to be born on a certain day
Mm-hmm.
because that's better, because that's better. And so like when it gets that technical, I'm like, that's kind of, I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather it just be natural. So
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. How about Mr. Kristen? What do you think?
Um, it doesn't particularly, for me, it never really resonated, although I do just myself notice I have some like really strong mood shifts with the moon and stuff like that. But, you know, from a quantum perspective, every single reality, every single possibility exists equally in superposition. Those are all equal. We can't really say, oh, that doesn't happen. Oh, that can't happen. No, they all can happen. But it's that conditioned mind, it's your conditioned karma that's going to follow the certain patterns of that's going to pick up on one, you call it a timeline or whatever. So if you decide, if your mind says, oh, that's real, and that is something my life follows, very much it's going to be absolutely real. But just as much as if you're like, oh, well, you know, if I wake up and I'm touching the yellow Care Bear, my day is going to be like this. And if I'm touching my pink teddy bear over here, my days, those are all very real for you. It's just, it's how you've conditioned your mind to select the different quantum probabilities. But there's no one that can tell you that, as far as we can tell, every single probability exists equally until it's observed.
Yeah. Okay. Let me share with you here. This one here. That's why I like to mention about this. Okay. Let's see here. You see that here, right? We have. I'm sorry. This is one here. Facial expression, right? Bodily language, right? And here we talk about the lips. We talk about the hand gesture. They talk about this hand gesture. They talk about how you sit. They talk about this. So, what do you think, Mr. Kristen, about this kind of expression through bodily languages, facial expression, and here? What do you think about this?
Well, being heavily trained in theater and drama, of course, yeah, it's the body language and the expression. Even there are things called like micro expressions we don't even realize that we're doing that give, since we're social animals, those are very real. And of course, they vary from culture to culture. Of course, you know, in like India, just it's a very obvious one. So yes, the body language, that is a characteristic of all your social animals. Like, so you can even see this in dogs, which is interesting. Like domesticated dogs, a domesticated dog will mimic, because right, they're dependent on humans for food and all sorts of things. So a domesticated dog will mimic human facial expressions. A wolf does not have that capability, even if they're raised under the same conditions with the same people. The wolf will never do that because of whatever social DNA, I don't, whatever that is, that's changed from the wild undomesticated animal to the domestic animal. So that is, it's very much an evolutionary adaptation.
Okay. Yeah. So one of the reasons why I asked you about the horoscope and this type of expression, whether it's facial expression, bodily expression, because you know, if you walk around with other people, if you encounter or interact with other people in the regular basic, soon later you recognize some of their patterns. I mean, talk about habitual patterns, and those kind of habitual patterns, they have built those things for many years. Of course, in Buddhist view, go back to your question, Ben, probably since the past life, whether it's good or bad. You understand, Ben? Right? So even you don't need to understand horoscope, but if you look at their pattern, right, you would recognize some of their habits, some of their personality and characteristics. You understand, Ben? Right?
Makes sense.
So that's what the psychologists are doing. So they generalize those kind of facial expression, attitude, characteristics, and they build up this kind of common sense. You can say universal attitude, universal personality, so that at least when you encounter interact with other people, you recognize some of them. So, but go back to the question is that can we remember our past habit? In one way, you can say yes. In other way, you can say no, because yes, that means we carry some of them, their traits in the past life. Some of them they think, of course, in biological field, they say that we get the gene, we get the um, mm, we learn from our parents, right? Most of the time, so they don't care much about the past life, right? But in Buddhist view, we have to take them into consideration. So tell me, like you used to tell your boy, right? Right, David, right? Tell me, right? Somehow he has some kind of special talent, special personality that he would not learn in this lifetime, right?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah, both him and my daughter. And that's so what's so amazing when you have kids that you, I mean, you completely can accept reincarnation because they come and they have such great talents that there's no way they didn't learn those in the few years that they've been here. It was just, you know, people would say it's their abilities, you know, what they're good at, but it's just so amazing because both of them are so good at like building and creating and putting, and it's just neat. But yeah, for sure, when you have kids, if you really, and if you don't shut them down, you can see it more. If it doesn't scare you and freak you out, you can see more and more. So if you can just be calm with them and let them, and they'll tell stories and stuff, it's really neat. If you, I think a lot of kids, I think most kids probably can do it, but they get shut down by the parents because the
Mm-hmm.
parents get so scared it freaks them out. So they're like, "No, that didn't really happen," but really, they're the kids remembering something from a different a past life. I've
Mm-hmm.
heard many people have told me similar things about their kids when they were kids, how
Yeah.
they would go into remembering stories.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Isaac, when you work with the children, right, doing our after school program, you recognize some of their special talent that they may not have learned from this life, but they carry on in the past life. You recognize us, Isaac?
Yeah, sometimes Sam talks about it. Jackson, he'll ask like some really deep.
Can you move? Can you move computer or laptop, please? Yeah. Hmm. Yeah.
Sam,
Go ahead.
Sam's talked about it before here. Jackson, he'll just ask some super deep, like, because I'll be teaching the little kids, and Jackson sit right here next to Sam. He'll just ask him something super deep, like about, I don't know, reincarnation or something. And I'm like, well, why? Like, why are you asking that question? You're so little. He's a baby. And sometimes with the kids, I think I have to show them something. Sometimes I do, but sometimes they know already, and it surprised me that they know that. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe they're a little smarter than I thought, but yeah, sometimes they have they surprise me a little bit. They'll know something I didn't think that they would know at that young age as
Thank
well.
you. Yeah. How about Miss Ash? In Indian tradition, in Indian family, do they encourage the children to remember some of their past life activities, a habit? What do you think?
Past life, I think like in deep meditation or something, some people can get into their past life and they can know about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard the stories like some people were in kids and they behave like all people and everything. So some incidents are also like that. Yeah. It's all connected. Whatever we are doing is connected to our previous life.
Yeah. How about Matt? What do you think? In your families, did your parents encourage you to develop your talent when you were little?
Yes, but not any like past life
Mm-hmm.
recollection.
Definitely. Yeah,
None of that.
definitely. Mm. Yeah. Okay. Uh, so Ben, when you were little, right, you have some special talent. Your parents help you to develop that.
Yeah, I was really good at memorizing. So, and my family's conservative, so they would have me memorize Bible verses.
Okay.
So
Oh,
yeah, so when I was like, and then I'd have to go in front of the church and recite them.
oh really?
Yeah, and
Okay.
always did good because I always got a lollipop after church. So
Mm-hmm. Okay. How about Stephen? You try to help your daughter when she was little. She have some special talent, especially with music, right?
With the music, she didn't learn that until later on.
Okay.
I think started in her sixth grade was when she started taking music, but before that, no,
Uh,
nothing at all. So,
but when she was little, you recognize some of her talent.
uh, no, I did not recognize it because at that moment in time, I just didn't understand too much.
Mm-hmm.
But
I see.
we're just like any typical family to where I
Mm-hmm.
just enjoy, having her around as a daughter, obviously. And between my wife and I, we do our best just to teach her to become, to be self-sufficient as she get older, and that obviously, you're gonna have once you age, you're gonna eventually in Asian community, you always say living with your parents and everything as we raise them. And as we get old, we're dependent on them now. But in Western world, here's a little bit different. We know how that they have to go where their job is. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why we're doing our best to just to basically teach her to become self-sufficient so that she doesn't rely a whole lot, that she can be help herself as well and not be too reliant on, anyone all the time. But, we just obviously enjoy
Mm-hmm.
her
Yeah,
company. But
thank you. Yeah, Miss Kristen, what do you think about your two cats? You think that they may have some type of human characteristics? What do you think? You recognize them?
I'm not into anthropomorphizing, but that's just me, like, and kind of how I was conditioned. I always joke that they're not Buddhist because they fight and beat each other up all the time. I'm like, so much for Buddhist cats. They like look at each other and start fight. And they pester each other. They could live peacefully, but they like choose to not get along. So
Mm.
I'm like, so much for being Buddhist. um, yeah, cats are funny creatures, but the the girl cat, she doesn't like me to pet her. She's not interested really in being pet, but she wants to be real close to me. She wants to sit next to me and touch me. She doesn't want me to pet her. But it's like if I sit outside and meditate, even in the grass, or ring the bell, she comes and she'll sit real close with me.
Mm-hmm.
The boy cat is just, he's very sweet. He's not very smart. But yeah, Yao Dao and I joke, he has this kind of style, like he always wants to do the, like, if you let him out
Mm-hmm.
the house, he turns around and wants to come back in immediately, and you let him in and he wants to go back out. It's just, I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah.
cats are funny. They definitely have their own personalities, but yeah, I don't tend. I'm just not one of those giving them human characteristics. That's just not really how I operate.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So since you work with so many animals, have you recognized some of them? They were born from human realm before. They have some type of human
Well,
trail.
I did. I taught people or students with disabilities and pretty severe handicaps to ride horses. I did that for 16 years. And horses are very special creatures anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Those horses, yeah, very, very much knew the difference between a kid that had problems versus like a smart aleck teenager. Like, they horses are definitely very sensitive, and it takes a very and the same with like service dogs,
Mm.
um, dogs that provide a lot of whether it's for people with disabilities or, you know, and I had working dogs too. I did search and rescue, and my search and rescue dog had a very clear sense about his jobs. I had protection trained dogs, and they were serious all the time. It wasn't like, oh, I trained them to do this, and it's only when I asked them to do it. Those dogs, no matter what, the number one thing in their life was to keep me safe, to keep me alert, you know. So I think in that respect, that animals, particularly animals that have jobs that serve people, I think they probably did have some sort of past life where, you know, it didn't put them. So part of the reason they get stuck, animals supposedly get stuck in the animal realm, is because they don't have the ability to get out of that survival thing, and they only think from survival. They only act on impulse. But then you see other animals of that same species that have evolved these special characteristics that improve their relationships with people. So my theory is that they may have gone down in a realm, but probably so far down where they're stuck there, where they're put in these jobs or positions to be able to come back.
Yeah, that's thank you. That's what I think next week we may talk more about that, because in the Chakra Tale story, some story the Buddha has told us that in the past he was dog, he was elephants, he was monkey, he was some kind of animals. Most of the time, all the times, he helped others, right? And not only him, but also his close disciple too. So that's why go back to your story, Miss Kristen. So those pet, right? Especially the dog that help the handicapped people, the blind people, they were bodhisattva. They were human before, right? But somehow they went to the wrong path. They went to the dog path. That's why they're there, right? But probably because they very good karma, eventually come back to human later on.
And at least they're not there as far as like as dogs go. I mean, there's also a very unfortunate like South Asian street dog, you know, street dog has a very which is a very different type of reincarnation than dog that's born in the West and cared for and revered. And
if they born in Vietnam or in other country, right, they may be put in the stove to be consumed. Okay, so thank you. We talk more about that. Thank you. So see you then. Thank you, Tammy. And see you then. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Okay, so Miss Ash, have a nice trip to your families in India, and hopefully see you. You say you'll be back in September, right? Or August, right?
July I will be back.
July. Oh, July. Okay, see you back then. Thank you. All right, thank you. See you then.